Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hat and Beard Show. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest, Hat and Beard. We're here to say the quiet part out loud. It's been a wild couple of weeks without any NFL action, but we just wrapped up the 2024 NFL Combine, and guys,
I love me some combine action. Nothing do I enjoy more than watching a bunch of grown men do repetitive football drills in their underwear for arbitrary statistics.
there are some things that we can take away from the Combine. There are some metrics that we can apply to on-the-field performances, some things that we can look for in some guys, but ultimately the Combine, let's be honest, it's just a filler arc in between the offseason, the draft, and the start of the new season. But the draft Combine just wrapped up. We're going to talk briefly about a couple of NFL prospects that I want to shine a light on for the Detroit Lions to maybe look at moving forward. Some guys that, as much as I just talk smack about the draft Combine, really utilize the Combine to leverage some RAS scores to maybe elevate themselves up draft boards, maybe crack into the top to 32 and go as a first-round draft pick. We'll discuss RAS scores on top of big news today coming out of the NFL. Mike Evans, longtime veteran from the Tampa Buccaneers, signed a 2-year, $52 million extension. We'll break down that deal a little bit and what that means for our hometown hero, Amon-Ra St. Brown, entering contract negotiations with the Detroit Lions, kind of where his market value might be. Guys, let's delve right into it. I'm Hat and Beard. This is the Hat and Beard Show. Let's get into it.
We're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and at the very least, go ahead and hit the thumbs up on this button, or the thumbs up button if you enjoy any bit of this content. We're trying things a little bit differently here than we normally have. We're going to do a little bit more of a podcast style here. So, coming to us from espn.com, Mike Evans signs a 2-year, $52 million contract, right? So here we go. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and 5-time Pro Bowler Mike Evans reached an agreement on a 2-year, $52 million deal that includes $35 million in guarantees. That's a sick deal for a 30-year-old wide receiver. Now, Mike Evans is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I think he's one of the few players in NFL history who's never recorded less than 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in like a 10-year span. It was some epic run that he had going on there. He was set to enter free agency. His agent said that $26 million a year is the largest wide receiver deal for a 30-year-old in his third contract, front-loaded with $29 million of the $44 million base value due at signing. So he's getting almost a $30 million signing deal. That's sick. Good on you. Good on you, Mike Evans. He deserves every penny of that. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He played with the greatest of all time in Tom Brady, and he's actually been able to help revitalize Baker Mayfield's career down in Tampa. And good on you, Mike Evans. Like, I'm going to be honest, guys, I actually have a bit of a soft spot for Mike Evans. I kind of thought, at the time when he came into the league, that he was going to be the heir apparent to Calvin Johnson. He had the same body shape, big metrics that met all the same, credentials as Calvin Johnson did. I thought he was going to be the next guy in Honolulu Blue and Silver to come and help bring in, revitalize or give Matt Stafford just another giant target to throw to, because we know how Matt Stafford at the time enjoyed throwing to big-bodied wide receivers, Calvin Johnson, Roy Williams before that. But so, all right, Mike Evans signs this deal. So here you go. If you look down here, decade of excellence. So from 2014 to 23, he's had 96 touchdowns. That's joining Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Marvin Harrison, Terrell Owens, and Devontae Adams. That is insanely elite company to be mentioned in the same breath as. I mean, Mike Evans deserves every bit of that $26 million a year deal that he's getting. A 3-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. Evans and his wife, Alia's Mike Evans Family Foundation, has provided over $500,000 in scholarships to Florida and Texas with assisting victims for the domestic violence. That's pretty good. So not only is he a monster on the field with a Hall of Fame trajectory career, but he's also just clearly a stand-up dude. 3-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. That is pretty awesome. So what Mike Evans did is great. Good on you, Mike Evans. You got your 3rd contract. You got a big old bag reflecting all of the things that you've done. What does that mean for the Detroit Lions and our boy Amon-Ra St. Brown? Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown is currently in contract negotiations with the Detroit Lions. He's been around since 2021. 4th round draft pick, Brad Holmes special, right? Brad Holmes went out and, he picked Cooper Kupp. And look what Cooper Kupp's been able to do back when he was the head of scouting for the LA Rams. And then you turn around, you parlay that into what he's been able to do with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Been able to just find these monster guys out there, these monster wide receivers later in the rounds who are able to break the conventional mold of what you look for in a top-tier wide receiver. Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, these bigger-bodied, electrifying speed guys who you look at and you go, yeah, that is a dominant one wide receiver. Instead, he goes out and he gets guys later on in the draft, forgotten guys that have been bypassed based on their lack of athletic paralysis on the field. But when you look at them on tape and you get to interview these guys, they just knock it out of the park, like Cooper Kupp, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe even some future wide receivers in this draft class, because this upcoming draft class is incredibly deep at wide receiver and especially offensive line. We'll talk about that next week, but right here, we're going through the SportsIllustrated.com. Detroit Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown is among the most popular athletes in Motown. Yeah, no shit, dude. He is. Man, it's hard. It's a toss-up with me between ASB and Hutch on who my favorite Lions are right now. And I know I'm a big Jared Goff stan. I love Jahmyr Gibbs, and I love Sam Laporta and Brian Branch and Jack Campbell. But Hutch and ASB are just kind of my guys. Penei Sewell, I mean, man, it's just so hard to pick your favorite Detroit Lion, right? Go ahead and comment down below who you think your favorite Detroit Lion is. The 4th round selection back in 2021 is among the best value draft picks in the organization has ever made. Let's go ahead and close this ad down here. Get out of here. The former USC Trojan embodies what the Lions organization wants to be about reportedly, and is reportedly in line to receive a massive contract extension. So that's the big thing here, okay? I see a lot of people just talking all kinds of smack about, is Amon-Ra worth the money? Is he a true number one? Because he's not the size of Justin Jefferson. He doesn't have the speed of a Jamar Chase, right? But what he does have is the hands. He's got the stats to back it up, pardon the train in the background. He's got an all-pro. He's got Pro Bowls. He did it as a 4th-round talent, okay, on an underpaid contract for what he was worth, what he was producing on the field. Since his rookie year, he's been an explosive and incredibly intricate part of the Detroit Lions offense. It's hard to say who needs who more, Jared Goff or Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would be more inclined to believe that Jared Goff, at least in this point in his career, needs an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Why do I say that? Well, you see what Jared Goff was able to do when he had Cooper Kupp, when he was in LA. His ability to get the ball out to a physical first down possession wide receiver. And I don't like to just hang that title on Amon-Ra because he is strong, he is fast, he can get deep balls. But in our offense, he is much more maximized, being a more of a West Coast style, coming across the field, a run after the catch type player. So Amon-Ra doesn't fit all the metrics that you want as far as your big-bodied number one wide receiver. He's never going to be Calvin Johnson. He's never going to have J-Mo's wheels. But what he does have, and this is going to sound incredibly cliche, is a gigantic heart. He is everything that Dan Campbell wants his players to be on the field. He is the embodiment of Dan Campbell and an extension of Dan Campbell on the field. His work ethic, his drive, his ability to understand his place, time, and role on the field. Okay, Amon-Ra might not be getting the ball every single play, but Amon-Ra knows what he needs to do to maximize the outcome for every other player, the other 10 guys on the offensive side of the ball, right? Amon-Ra knows where he needs to be, the blocks he needs to play, exactly how to draw guys off, because they know Amon-Ra is going to start getting a lot more coverage than what he was his first or second year in the league now that he's an all-pro and going to be signing. Reportedly, according to ESPN, the Lions and St. Brown have been working on an extension that could link him in the range of $26 to $28 million per year. Now, Mike Evans gets $26 million a year on a 2-year deal. He's 30 years old, future Hall of Fame wide receiver talent. Does Amon-Ra St. Brown justifiably earn, in your eyes, the same contract, if not just a little bit more money? Because he's younger, because he's doing more with physically less, he's doing it in Detroit, where we've been broken down, beaten, and forgotten, and he's been doing it with what everybody perceives to be a not elite quarterback in Jared Goff, okay? So is Amon-Ra just a product of Ben Johnson and Jared Goffense, or is Amon-Ra really that dude? I'm going to be honest here with you guys. I'd say pay Amon-Ra 4 years, pay him $30 million a year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is worth every single penny of $28+ million a year right now in his career. He is the most important man in the wide receiving room for the Detroit Lions and probably your third most important player on offense behind Penei Sewell and Jared Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown is part of the engine, a big part of the engine that makes this offense run, and you're not going to be the team you are now without Amon-Ra St. Brown's both performance on the field, his presence in the locker room, and his overall ability to lead the team, take the steps they need to take to become a winning product on the field, which is why you see him being nominated as captain last year, which is why you see him consistently have 1,000-yard receiving yards, which is why you see him now being an all-pro wide receiver. Pay Amon-Ra St. Brown what he is worth. Detroit, do not play around with this. This is not something you want to mess around with. This is not something you want to F around and find out. Go ahead, pay the man, give him all of $28 million, if not a little bit more. Next up on the docket, we got a couple of draft things. Oh, guys, it's the draft, and I just love talking about the draft. The draft combine just wrapped up. I'd be lying to you if I didn't, say that I'd spent more time than I honestly care to admit watching the combine. I really do love it, and I've loved it for many, many years, dating back to when I first graduated high school and NFL Network started to kind of burst on the scene, right? So, story time with Hat and Beard. Back when I had graduated high school, I opted to not play college ball because, to me, two things. One, secondary education seems like kind of like a scam, and Division II and Division III schools where I was being highly recruited, they don't give you the same type of scholarship deal that a Division I program gives you. It's worth it, but it's not worth it. And secondly, I prioritized chasing skirts and doing drugs and sitting on couches over, advancing my athletic and academic career. I wasn't really a college guy. I never have been. College was never really in the books for me. So when I graduated high school, obviously I found myself with all this time on my hands, and gee golly, what do you know? That was about the time NFL Network was really taking off, and NFL Network started to do the thing that no other sports network had been able to do at the time, and that was they're just going to give you continuous coverage of all the dirty, gritty ins and outs of the NFL, right? Including combine coverage. And I can't explain it, but I just really like watching the combine. I love watching the prospects come in. I like watching, the fundamentals of the game really be showcased in the drills. The small, intricate things you're really starting to look for. 99% of what you see on the field is what you get. There is a lot of psychological that goes into the player, but you can, like as I said, extrapolate some data. Your 10-yard splits, your cone drills, your shuttles on explosiveness of players. The 40 is it's a circus event at this point. Everyone likes to watch the 40. Everyone likes to see who's got the big arm to throw the deep ball, right? That's fun, but in reality, the 40-yard dash doesn't really extrapolate to anything other than how well you can perform on special teams, because when it really comes down to brass tacks, the very least you should be able to do is contribute on special teams. So the 40-yard dash, kind of overhyped, whatever. Bench press, vertical, shuttle, your 10-yard split in the 40. Those are all very comparable statistics that you can really match up against. And then you also get to see the guys run a couple of drills. The DBs and wide receivers, tight ends getting to run the gauntlet is always a nice, exciting thing to see, really the body control they have on maintaining a straight line down the sideline. And then, you see your offensive linemen, you get to see a lot more agility drills. You get to see how well they operate in a right-hand, left-hand stance and their kick steps, their pass pro, that type of stuff. Really how fundamentally strong they are, because really what it comes down to, you're going to practice like you play, right? And if you play like shit, or if you practice like shit, you're going to play like shit. If you practice perfect, you're going to play perfect. You practice like you play. I don't need perfection all the time. I just need it 99% of the time, right? Anyway, so the NFL Combine has this interesting new thing called the RAS score, and the RAS score is a relatively newer concept that's been implemented in the NFL that helps break down raw athletic ability on your draft prospects. So the RAS score is a tool used to measure overall athleticism, combining results in multiple categories to create an overall score. The concept was developed by Kent Lee Platt, who wanted to construct an easy-to-understand metric that encapsulates a player's relative athleticism. So it's a way to just kind of streamline things so you don't have guys just talking about 10-yard splits all the time. You can just cite the RAS score on them, right? To get a score, players' measurables and athletic testing are individually graded out on a score of 10. The score is produced based on what percentile the measurement is in each relevant position. For example, if a player runs a 40-yard dash in the 99th percentile of their position, that player will score 99 or a 9.9 on the metric. All scores in each measurement are then combined and averaged to create their overall RAS. The maximum a player score can be is a 10.0. Multiple prospects have reached that feat, including our boy, Calvin Johnson, first ballot Hall of Famer without a Super Bowl ring. And was probably going to have a blow-up monster rookie year. Unfortunately, he got taken down, early on. I think it was like week 4 or 6 with injury. And then C.J. Stroud just went absolutely bananas down in Houston. Deonte Banks, who a lot of us were hoping would fall to the Lions in the 8th spot last year, and he went to Seattle, so we missed out on that. But hey, all good things come to those who wait, and we ended up to get Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are just some of the names that have scored a 10.0 on the RAS. So who are we going to look at on the RAS score? Well, guys, there's some positions that we need to focus on for the Lions here, and that is we need to go ahead and look at the defensive line is some spots that I wanted to go ahead and look at here. Namely because, everyone wants us to go corner with the first overall pick or our first round pick. Man, where are them? Oh man, well I had them all pulled up. I had all the scores pulled up. Anyway, so there was a couple guys that really tested really well, a defensive tackle and a defensive end I really wanted to showcase, both who have hometown ties to Michigan here. Braden Fisk, he ended up with I think a 9.9 on the RAS score. He went bananas on, I think it was the shuttle or the 3-cone drill, and smoked Aaron Donald's record. Not smoked, but went a little bananas on it. So here you go, Braden Fisk. He is a Florida State senior or a Florida State grad by way of Western Michigan University, hometown Michigan City, Indiana. So he's for all intents and purposes a local guy. Okay, senior, 6'4" defensive tackle, coming in at 292 pounds. That is a decent size, a little underweight for what you'd want to see. You'd want to bump that up to about 300, 305. You remember Lee McNeil's playing at about 315, 310. So according to the NFL prospect breakdown here, he's got a production score of 77, which brings him at the 3rd defensive tackle spot. Athletic score 87. That would put him at the number 1 spot of defensive tackles at the combine as far as athleticism is concerned, with a total score 82, with an overall defensive tackle rank of 3rd. All right, so it's 4.78. We don't care too much about that. Right there, that 168. That 168 in the 10-yard split, that is pretty. That's a big man moving pretty fast right there. 33.5-inch vertical jump, so he's got some ups on him. A 9'9" broad jump. Did not do the 3-cone drill. Did the 20-yard shuttle in 4.37 and threw up the bench press 26 times. Of all of these categories right here, bench press was the only thing that Brandon Fisk did not come in first place in all of the defensive tackles testing at the combine. That is absolutely phenomenal. You got to love that type of breakdown. His overview here, a defensive tackle with below average mass. As I said, he's a little bit light in his ass, right? And length, who can make up for it with an above average quickness and consistently revving engine. So he's got a big motor, right? And you got to love a guy with a high hot motor that just runs. That seems like a Brad Holmes kind of guy right there. Let's see. You're going to have Fisk uses sudden hands and nimble feet to whip single blocks. Once he finds daylight, he flies to whoever has the ball. He doesn't have the anchor to sit down in muddy gaps. So schemes will be important for him. Fisk is a hustle rusher who can win quick or late if opponents don't play with the proper hand usage and match his energy. So he lacks ideal measurables, but has a chance to become an impact defender. So that's just a bunch of fancy talk for he's slightly oversized, but beats the living shit out of his opponent. He's quick, he's nimble, he's probably a little more of a cerebral player than you're looking for, understanding that he's undersized and has to maximize his movements, always looking a step ahead. Who does that remind you of? Aiden Hutchinson. Remember how they said Aiden Hutchinson's arms were too small? That's why he didn't go number 1 overall. His arms were too short, right? 6'7", Aiden Hutchinson. Big motor, though. Runs through the ball. Knows how to put his hands on the defender. Knows how to play games with them and get those guys off of him. Strengths. Plays with a fully fueled motor. Run defender and pass defender, right? Big motor. Guy runs through the whistle. You got to like to see it. Leaps out of his stance on the field and attacks the pocket. Speedy, short strides. Allows for edge-to-edge rush and a twist game potential. So that is kind of that tweener guy that Brad Holmes likes to use, at least has shown he's like to use with like a John Kaminsky. So think of this guy as a little bit younger, more athletic John Kaminsky when you're thinking of him on the field. Creates decent point of attack with pop and his explosion into contact. Punches and plays around with blockers in a set for his next course of action. Activity level creates challenges for heavy static defenders. So he's just a fucking monster out there. He's just a madman out there playing with his hair on fire, and that's the type of stuff you like to see. Weaknesses: bigger linemen can stick to him once they get their hands on him. Gets overtaken by hand resets from longer blockers. Solid play strength, but gets pushed around by double teams. Needs favorability in early rush position and the end of punch. So basically the weaknesses, all that is 4 lines saying he's a little small. That's all that is 4 lines of he's just a little small. But then you got up here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 strengths saying how much of a pain in the ass he is to deal with, right? So that's something that you got to enjoy, right? He's small, but he's feisty, right? He's got a fucking motor on him. He's nasty, right? He's nasty when he's playing. And that's the type of dude you like to see, a disruptive player. What do I always call Aiden Hutchinson? Mr. Mayhem. And what does Mr. Mayhem need? Another running mate. Think of it. Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage united on that defensive front. How sick that would be. How much pressure that would take off our secondary that is greatly lacking. And I'm not going to not talk about defensive backs. Not in this video, but as we get closer to the draft, we're going to do some mocks, you guys, and we're going to get really down into it. So I liked what I seen out of this Braden Frisk guy. I was overly impressed with his combine. And again, this is someone who, as the 3rd-rated defensive tackle in the draft, you could probably see him slide out of the first round. There's not a whole lot of draft talent that was like, oh my God, we need to have this guy. I mean, Mozzie Smith was probably a bit of a reach last year in the first round, and one of those guys who scored pretty well at the combine, but was able to edge his way up, but probably should have been taken in the 2nd round based on how well he performed versus the players taken around his drafting spot. So could Braden Fisk slide to the Lions at 29? Yeah, I think that's a realist, or 30, right? 30? Yeah, 29 or 30. That is a distinct possibility. Sit on it and wait, though. Maybe he's another one of those 2nd round guys, because this year in the 2nd round in 2023, Brad Holmes went a little bananas getting both Sam Laporta and Brian Branch. That was pretty sick, right? That's pretty sick. So we know that Brad Holmes knows more than we do and can kind of hunt these guys down. Look at that neck. Doesn't he just kind of look like Aaron Donald? Dude, sign me up. Braden Fisk, sign me up. The other guy we want to talk about here is the defensive end out of Western Michigan, Marshawn Nealon. Stellar scouting combine should put him high on the Lions draft order, and I couldn't agree more. He went absolutely bananas, tested out really, really well in the RAS score. This coming to us from Lions Wire. One of the big standouts from the first day of on-the-field workouts and athletic testing of the Combine is a player should definitely know in Detroit. Western Michigan defensive end Marshawn Nealon turned in athletic performance in Indianapolis showcased a great deal of what Lions GM Brad Holmes typically looks for in a pass rusher. That's right. Nealon is a name every Lions fan should be aware of by now. If they weren't already, he's performing very well at the Senior Bowl in January, often dominating one-on-ones, but also standing out in team drills. Despite playing in the MAC, he's arguably the most impressive pound-for-pound position, if not overall, in the entire draft. Nealon, who has met with the Lions both here at the Combine and in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, proved that the Lions proved that on Thursday inside Lucas Oil Stadium. Boy, you like my third grade reading level? So basically, he just went in and he's scoring out as a 75 in the 75 to 100 overall range. So you're back end of the second round, start of the third round. Man, he's Grand Rapids native. I think he's like the number 9. I think he's around the number 9 defensive end on the board. Let's see if we can get some NFL buzz. Here we go. So over here at NFLBuzz.com. Yeah, you see him kind of down here under Jonah Ellis. I wouldn't mind me some Jonah Ellis as well. But Marshawn Nealon, the Western Michigan kid, is the number 9 defensive end on the board. So easily a nice, solid day 2 pick. Look at these scores. Overall rating. Oh, man. His tackling's at a 70. Pass rush at a 79. Run defense. Look at that. 83. My guy can really... Oh, all right. Well, so there you go. He actually is who we already have on the team, Josh Paschal, according to NFL Buzz player comparison similarity level, Josh Paschal. Oh, man. Let's see. Played 9 games in 2022, he recorded 30 tackles, 7 assists while making 24 stops. As a pass rusher, he produced 22 pressures, including 19 hurries, 1 hit, and 2 sacks. As a senior, he played in 10 games, 38 tackles, 14 assists, 35 stops. As a pass rusher, 37 total pressures, 28 hurries, 3 hits, and 6 sacks. It's pretty good production for a MAC player. All right, you can't be mad at that. I liked what I seen as far as I don't have his combine stats pulled up here, but it was impressive. Anyway, these are just some guys that we can kind of look to maybe see some Brad Holmes magic in day 2, day 3, maybe even day 1 if Frisk maybe kills it at his pro day and just somebody gets really high on him. But these are some guys that I think we should maybe take to look. Day 2 that could be relatively impactful to the Detroit Lions and maybe calm some of the questions you guys would have if we don't go out and make the big splash at free agency that we're looking to get some blue chip talent. That there are guys in the draft that we can start to mine, and we all know Brad Holmes knows more than everybody else, right? And we can't question him because so far the results, speak for themselves. So, look, that's going to do it for me, guys. I know this is a little bit more of a longer rambling one. I appreciate you hanging out with me. We're going to see how this goes. A little bit more podcast style, a little less editing. And maybe we'll chop it up into some smaller segments for later on in the week. So that's going to do it for me. You guys have been an attentive audience. I've been Hat and Beard. Stay out of trouble. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Keep your stick on the ice. If she doesn't find you handsome, at least she'll find you handy. And frig off.